Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Today, I have with me Diana Goenaga. She is a strategist focused on artificial intelligence. And today, can't wait actually to talk about the role that AI plays and humans play in sustainability. So I'd like to welcome Diana to the show. Welcome along.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you for being here, Diana. And why don't we get kicked off with you explaining a little bit about who you are, a bit about your background as well.
Okay, so first I was a biologist, so nothing to do with AI, and I wanted to observe nature and to do research. But after being very specialized in a very narrow field of biology, I wanted to be a generalist in science. So I've been a consultant in R&D. I discovered many topics with different labs, different laboratories, different, research team in any kind of industry. So very small companies, big companies, industries, computer science, pharma, it could be anything.
Okay.
And I discovered that in all those companies that I met as a consultant, the AI topic, artificial intelligence, was a trend impacting everywhere. Everywhere something was changing, and it was completely a game changer for any kind of technological challenge, research topic, industry problem, and it was transforming everything everywhere. So I found myself very interested in that, and as far as my job developed, I worked more and more on that, up to developing solutions, defining solutions as to how to use artificial intelligence to serve people in their business.
Excellent. And what do you prefer, biology, human or animal biology, or the robots?
I think the two have a future together. And actually, why did I come to that? It's because, in biology, we observe very much things.
Mm,
We just do not presume anything. We are very scientific and we observe. And actually, today for a virus, for example, we cannot tell if it's a living creature or not, or is it only some kind of biobot replicating itself and
mm,
evolving, etc. So as for AI, there are many, metaphors, comings, etc. But what struck me the most is that when you look at history, the evolution of AI, I think it's very reverse compared to the evolution of a human brain growing up.
mm,
So let me explain. When a baby just arrives, the first thing that a baby can do is to recognize faces, to recognize emotions, to be able to identify his parents' face, smell, ambience, etc. And after that, the baby is going to imagine things, to be creative. He's going to start to catch things, so to have a motricity, to walk. And
mm.
then it is language, so it is words, it is expressions. And after, when you grow up, you make more and more projects, you project yourself in time, you plan things, you have your future things to organize, you exchange with people, you make transaction, and eventually you go up to solve complex mathematical problems. And actually, this evolution, when you look at artificial intelligence and computer science in general, from the very beginning, with the Babbage machine, etc., it was quite the opposite. We started with mathematics.
Mm.
Machines helped to make complex calculations. And after that, it helped with planning, the system understanding, anticipating things, modeling and simulating what's going to happen. And after that, it came more on pragmatic topics like I want to move, and we came back to motricity and to language with
Mhm.
natural language understanding. And actually, today with machine learning, the phases that are unlocking are actually the ones that babies unlock first.
Mm.
So understanding language, walking, catching things, it is things that machines have a very hard time to do, while for us it's very easy.
Yeah.
And in the end, understanding emotions, recognizing faces, what people think, it is a holy grail.
Yeah.
But this is quite the most natural thing for us.
Yeah, it's a really interesting way of looking at it, that it's the reverse, and in some ways, what we're trying to do with AI now is map how the brain works so that it can replicate it. So, do you think that will continue to look at it that way, sort of in the reverse, in order to unpick it, sort of reverse engineer how the brain works so that you can build it up, or do you think actually going back to the start and sort of letting it develop? Because in some ways, machine learning is about starting with not knowing much and getting better.
Mm.
So conceptually, it evolves the same way that biology has evolved. But I get your kind of overarching change that's happened over the last 10, 20, 30 years.
Yeah, for the moment, I think that's just a strange observation, and I will not
Mhm.
presume if it will bring, some
Yeah.
reverse where we meet everything similarly. I don't think it is how it's going to happen. But I think that's interesting because what we take for granted for
Mm.
machines, it is absolutely not granting. It is extremely complex for a machine to just take a cup. So
Mm.
we have tried formal reasoning to understand the shape and find what is the best way to take the cup. But in the end, it was more with machine learning techniques that we approached that. And
Yeah.
will it be one day perfect? I don't know. I don't know. But what I think is most interesting to see is that machines are mainly in silo. So it
Mm.
is conceptualized and made for dedicated things to do. Very simple tasks. So I have a calculation to make this kind of operations. I will have a robot maybe to pick up. I have an autonomous car to drive me to work.
Mm.
But what is, I think, key in human thinking is about linking things together.
Yeah.
And that is really, to me, the key to be truly intelligent. I think that AI cannot be truly intelligent without a model of the world.
Mm.
Because actually, it
Yeah.
is what we are growing as persons, is how to connect the dots. I am a mother of two great kids. And for example, you see my daughter, she's 7 years old, and she was learning multiplication tables at school.
Mm.
So she's learning it very well, etc. And when we come at the bakery after school, and she wants maybe free candies, and I tell her, so how much is it? And it took some time at first to realize that she could apply the
Mm.
multiplications to this real life use case.
Yeah.
And actually, that's really key to unlock that in machine because you could take a very specialized machine that make multiplications, but if in a bakery the robot cannot connect the dot about what it's doing, it serves for nothing.
Yeah. Is it a case then that machines need to be taught those applications, those connecting of the dot? Does it need to be taught everything before it can do anything? Or actually is it like a baby growing up? Is it able to kind of iterate and get better? Or really it will only ever get to a certain point without being fed much more of a rich model of what the world really looks like. And sorry, a follow-on question actually, which we can come back to, is the real world even the right benchmark for us to teach AI? Because we know there's some challenges with that.
Mm. I think that it's, in the end, it's an education problem. And this is
Mm.
really an ethical topic also between humans and AI, because it is about
Yeah.
how do we want to educate and guide those artificial intelligences that will be more and more numerous and ubiquitous around us.
Yeah.
So to me, it's really difficult to have a proper model of the world, a proper representation of the world. It is absolutely not easy to know exactly what to tell the machine.
Mm.
But for example, you can take the best AI in the world to solve a game. So we could have, for example, AlphaGo Zero
Mm.
for Go. And you take the best AI of the world for computer vision. And you see the best AI of the world, if it sees a Go game, it will absolutely not be able to connect the dots between I know the mechanics of the Go game and I've just seen a Go game, but they cannot connect the dots. So what I think is really important is to formalize the concepts of what exists in the world. And this is formalized in terms of formalization. Really, it is about ontologies. So it is defining what are the concepts of what exists in the world. So if you say there are things in the world that are games, and games have materials and have game mechanics, and then maybe having an ontology, having a representation, a model of the world, the artificial intelligence could realize, like my daughter at the bakery, oh, this is a Go game. I just recognized it with my computer vision. Hey, I can connect the dot thanks to the ontology, and I can solve it. And this is where the machine maybe could step and play.
Right. So ontologies are like the bridge that connects between what's happening and the application and the real world.
Yeah. And what's really complicated is that actually, even between us humans, we do not have all of us the same model of the world. There are some things that are very common to everyone, every culture, etc. But everything is so different from one country to another, from one culture to another. There are different laws, different rules, different places, environments. So it's very difficult to imagine to make ontologies for everything. Everything also is connected. So for us humans, it's life around us, but for a machine, it would be connections to formalize in some way. And it is so complex that it's a holy grail. But that's the vision. Try to provide a model of the world to place AI in the real world, maybe.
And of course, the real world has a real world problem and challenge, and sustainability is something that I know you have spent time thinking about, and how AI can play a part in improving, solving or improving or chipping away at the sustainability challenge that we have. I'm quite a big advocate that we should point the brains and the money that's going into AI at solving things like sustainability or improving sustainability, rather than teaching machines to sell us more of the right adverts and serve up more of the right clothes on a retail website. If we can point smart, clever technology at solving big problems, I think that's a really positive thing. So where I suppose, where does AI play a part in sustainability to start with?
Yeah, so indeed, sustainability is the key imperative for every person. I think it is at the very bottom of the Maslow pyramid. So if we want to be to prioritize the most important topic, it is of course the first one to address. And the question I wondered is, can we solve, can we achieve our sustainability goals without AI? So first, what are our sustainability goals? It is about meeting the needs of the present generation without compromising that the future generations will meet their own needs. So we can preserve and have a durable earth, sustainable for our children, so we can maintain. So everything that we know, it is of course climate, but it is many other things. It is how do we provide food for everyone in the world? How do we provide water? So there are so many challenges, so they are formalized. It is sustainable development goals.
Yeah.
And how do we work as a species, as a human species, Homo sapiens? How do we work today to meet these challenges? So you all know the institutions that work on that, and they try to legiferate. Because it is how we try to provide frameworks, laws for everyone to try to follow, with events like COP27 very recently and others, to organize everyone towards the same goals. And how do we do that? We observe what's happening everywhere. So to solve, for example, the hunger problem in the world, you have to know in the world where is food produced and where is food needed. And there is a quality repartition of this food, where are proteins, lipids and glucides, and I have to maybe import and export things. But to define exactly what is the best policy to prevent hunger to happen and to be more important in the future, you have to balance things. So you need everyone to share their data. And when you need to share everyone's data, you need an ontology because people will share anything, etc. So it is really helpful to organize and model the problem at worldwide level.
Mm.
And when you have all those data, it is so many intricate factors. Every sustainability challenge is multifactorial. It is connected to many things. So it is connected to weather, to commercial aspects, to supply chain, to anything. So it is multifactorial. So we cannot simulate the what if scenarios of what is the best course of action to do without AI. So we need AI to federate and observe the world. We need AI to make the best what if scenarios to determine as far as possible. Of course, it will not be omniscient, but it's really tricky to play with ecosystems. So where are we going to change the balance and what would be the chain reactions to that? And AI is the way to make those scenarios.
I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because that unlocks a whole bunch of challenge about the belief that AI, belief in AI, the trust in AI, the politics, the culture around the decision, or the learning that the AI provides. So we've seen this with climate. Models, scientific models show that there's a climate problem, but people still don't believe it. People still think there's an agenda, and maybe there is. I don't know, but there is this challenge that the model is showing you something, but there's got to be a belief system wrapped around it. And some of those I guess also with some of the sustainability development goals from the UN, one of those is about skills gap and closing the skills gap. But then there's this challenge that, well, AI is often about automation, that's often about removing skills, that changes the makeup of talent that's required in the world. So it's a funny kind of like I think sort of comes together in a bit of friction, I think, about using AI to solve sustainability, when in fact AI could be part of the problem, but also this belief system that AI really is part of the problem. So step by step, I think, isn't there, in sort of proving that AI really does add the value in the first instance?
Actually, there are two important things in what you said. The first one is the need to help and educate people, everyone, to realize that it is not a fantasy, those discussions, that it is real. And I think that best so far, evidence and facts and are the most important arguments to raise and to communicate and to educate. So AI, of course, can help make those arguments and those evidence, because it's not only me with my nose thinking that climate is rising or not. It is demonstrated, illustrated by real world observations, etc. So this is a first big important part. And the second one is that AI is in itself something that is extremely energy consuming. So today, when you look at what we do as humans with AI, we do solutions to put fake ears and to play. But we need also to think the uses of AI ethical. We know the power consumption of blockchains, things like that. So of course, in the usage we have of AI, we must think sustainable and we must think priorities. What really requires to put energy in AI. So of course, let's put energy in AI for sustainability purposes first. And when we do that, you're right. So that's the second aspect of your question. It is really never forgetting that AI does not replace humans. It augments humans in their capacity to make decisions and to be aware. Today, there is much more information than one person can read at all. You cannot read what's being published every second on the internet. You cannot see everything, etc. So just to see what's happening and be informed and take the best decisions, you need AI, but this augments you. And AI is absolutely not in charge of solving sustainability for us. It is really important for us to use it to help us take the best decisions.
Mm. It's yeah, I mean, as the human race, we can't want it or have it anyway, I guess. But there's this kind of thirst for solving problems with technology and speeding up decision making, speeding up the way we move around the world, speeding up the solving of these problems, um which means that humans are mad, right? We'll get carried, we can get carried away with ourselves in applying this technology, and there's always some bad actors that want to apply some of these things or some of these technologies in ways that they weren't intended. So is it important, particularly sustainability, where these are such fundamental challenges that we have as a society? Do you think it's important that where these things are owned, where these things are governed, how these things are controlled in inverted commas, is that as important as the technology itself, or more important in some ways?
I think it's a very key topic because, of course, our planet is for everyone, and it's very difficult to drive decisions that are taken in one place, where other countries may think it is unfair that they could not enjoy the same, they do not have the same constraints, the same chances because they start later, etc., etc. So there are these kind of discussions. So if AI is implied in decision making, of course, it should be mutualized as much as possible because it is the kind of decisions that are for our species entirely. And the efforts that are required are probably very different in different parts of the world. It's really about, if you see our planet as an ecosystem, it is finding the way to balance our impact on the environment. And this requires to change the cursors not everywhere in the same way. So AI needs to be shared, federated, because the decisions that are taken will probably be very impacting very differently the different stakeholders.
Yeah.
So yes, of course, and that's an IP topic, and probably that more and more we should encourage, international organizations that are as neutral as possible to take the lead on those topics. And this is why the international events, the UN initiatives are really important.
Yeah. Do you think from in sustainability, and I'm thinking about the sustainability development goals from the UN, do you think there's some that are better aligned to where AI can support, or some of them, could we prioritize so that, because there's a lot to do, right? As you mentioned, sort of climate, education, food, skills, water, talent, all sorts of, as you say, big global things. So is it suited more to some things than other? Is AI better at some jobs than other? Should we think about how to apply it in sort of targeted, laser focused ways, rather than going, well, there's sustainability and that's that's saving the world and saving humans and advancing humans in its entirety. So is there a kind of better set of use cases for AI when we think about sustainability?
I think that the more we touch, a human, emotional topic, like skills, like education, etc., it brings a challenge to put AI-driven decisions into that more and more complicated. So maybe it's just also a way to manage how our mindset can advance on this topic. We have seen that it is already difficult to have the engagement of people for those topics. So it may be, elevating even more the barrier to put many technical, AI-driven way to organize things, especially on human topic. Maybe it's too hard a barrier to consider.
Too big.
So of course, maybe for me it's more intuitive to try to apply it on very factual and let's say mathematical matters, because they will of course become very human
Yes.
driven decisions very quickly.
Yeah.
But at least we can have sustained arguments with facts and
Yeah.
figures and what if scenarios that are developed with AI more easily on those kind of topics.
So something like distribution of food in some ways, it's mathematical. It's where, I think you mentioned this before, it's where is the food, where is the need, how do we get it
Yeah.
there as fast as possible, as fresh as possible, or in fact, how do we create food production nearest where it's needed rather than shipping food all around the world.
Exactly, and all that is related to climate change, to water, to what is classically at the bottom of the Maslow pyramid. For me, the upper levels are also extremely important, especially education. But the bottom level is really where data also is the most factual. It is temperatures, it is water quality, water availability, etc.
Yeah.
It is things that are more of the observational, factual. That's it.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. You mentioned data there, and earlier you talked about AI needing all the data in order to solve some of these problems, and of course that's specific to the use case. But there strikes me that, and you talked about this being needing to be at a global level, but data is often at a individual level. So there's such a big gap between data at a global scale and my data about me that might impact on the decision about climate or food or water or whatever it might be. Is there such a high barrier here for the collection? Forget analytics and AI, but the collection of data and the consolidation and aggregation of data that prevent real pacey progress here, and actually to some of the laws and regulation, rightly laws and regulations, particularly that we have here in Europe, something like GDPR that's there to protect the rights and of the owner of the data in the first place. Does that restrict our ability to apply AI for sustainability, and do we need to start getting a bit cleverer and more innovative about how that works?
I think that especially with the European regulations that are ongoing, they are really thinking how to put a framework that enables to participate in that. So of course, it is a framework for ethical data usage with consent from any data owner, etc. But what's important is that data, if everyone provides it just spontaneously, it is just a big pile of zeros and ones. Maybe you will have some data, but you will have maybe you have a column with things, and you follow your weight. For another person, it would be the P column. There are multiple languages. You will probably have put it in pounds, maybe in the UK, while everywhere else it's in kilograms, etc., etc. You may have a data format. It's completely unexploitable. So this is really where we come back to the importance of having a model of the world. And this is really, for me, the ontology is at the heart of what we are doing, humans plus AI. If you provide the key concepts and everyone can map their data onto those concepts, and it guides to actually say between two persons, it could be two companies, two persons, two countries, two institutions, but this is the same concept. This is, for example, people. Whatever you have put persons, owner, responsible, people, ID, matricule, you could have named it in any case. But if everyone says this data is actually people's names, it is very a simple thing that is not to be seen just as a technical bottom-up improvement or best practice to do. This is actually of very high value because it models the concepts of the world that we are all using. And this is helping to go from separate individual initiatives that will be all in silo and separated to bigger impact and the capacity to have real collective intelligence.
But yeah, that combination of solving small problems and then scaling them up is at least a way of comprehending the kind of solving the size of the problem. Because when you think about it, food shortage across the world, that's huge. But if we think about food shortage in a one town, one city, one country, that's
Mm.
much more, achievable in concept, and the data set's smaller. And so, yeah, the sort of top down and bottom up approach is probably certainly needed.
Yeah. So of course you're right. We have to start somewhere. So
Mm.
initiatives have their scope, and
Yeah.
hopefully we can take a bigger and bigger scope. But you see, as a biologist, in ecosystems, we have seen that every time that the human species wanted to influence an ecosystem, you probably know the typical examples of rabbits being introduced into islands that did not
Mm.
have rabbits, etc., etc.
Mm.
There is always an underestimation of how everything's connected in our world. So I strongly advise that when we are working on sustainable goals, it is highly connected to everything. So changing something at one country level may have consequences that we
Mm.
could
True.
not expect, and this is, the systemic complexity
Mm.
that can explode very rapidly because we cannot think of everything, we cannot simulate with every parameter. So really, as biologists, I would say that we need to be very careful. We have already made the Earth derive a lot. Let's not make it derive worse while trying to fix something in
Yeah.
the wrong way.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
also
Well,
the importance of working of the bigger schema, the bigger picture of the world. We cannot make it, we are not omniscient, but we
mm.
can try to model further than what we are working locally.
Yeah, I see what you mean. If you just chip away at the problem bottom up, you
Mm.
don't see or necessarily recognize the consequence. So a little bit of modeling beyond just sort of step one, so that you can see, well, where that might this go, how might this evolve, where might it take us, so that we at least think through the consequence. And also, I guess, a handbrake ability to kind of say, right, let's stop that. It's not going where we want it to go, which comes back to the guardrails I mentioned earlier. And who own, comes back to the question of who owns this. Is this, governmental? Is this, does this need to be private? Is this,
Mm.
is Elon Musk going to solve this, or is this going to be owned by, one of the global powers in politics right now? So big questions, Archer, which we don't need to answer now, because they're they're challenging ones to answer. But no, I just wanted to say thank you for coming onto the show. I'd kind of never thought of sustainability. You forget that sustainability is more than just climate. Actually, often you think sustainability, you think climate, but it's across environment, it's across humans, it's impacting everything in society. So yes, thinking about what use cases within that AI can play a part has been fascinating, and I appreciate you talking to me on the show.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. And indeed, it's really an interesting topic because we want to limit AI impact on energy consumption. But I strongly think that without AI, we cannot solve sustainability goals and challenges. So it's a trade-off that we'll have to find as a human species.
Yes, trade-off balance. Yeah, but hopefully it moves us forward. So looking forward to seeing how this moves and evolves, and appreciate you sharing your thoughts on the topic. So thanks a
Thank you
lot,
very
Diana.
much.
No problem. And thanks everyone. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we'll catch you again soon.